There is no way this keyboard is $70 and it sounds like this. So this is the Epomaker G84, which is the little stepsister of the TH85 that I recently did a video on, and I might just dethrone it as Epomaker's best bang for the buck 80% keyboard. So what's the difference, and is it even worth it? Let's find out. Do you guys remember DealSource.tech? It was fun until I spent nights babysitting plugins and fixing crashes during peak traffic instead of sharing deals. Thinking back, if I had run this on Kinsta's managed hosting for WordPress, I would have slept like a baby. Kinsta covers pretty much every base. You get lightning fast load times on Google's premium network, enterprise level security, and what's most important to me, real professional and fast human customer support without all that chatbot nonsense. The last thing you want is your site going down while you wait on hold with a robot. I'm not even surprised that more than 120,000 businesses trust Kinsta, and their dashboard is so intuitive that you can get the hang of it within minutes. So if you're ready for faster, safer support with real human beings, then click my link below and try Kinsta for your first month for completely free. So starting off with the box design, which is more minimalistic compared to the TH85, but inside you get the same essentials. We got your plastic dust cover, a braided USB-C to A cable, a combined keycap and switch puller, and 2 spare switches. Now there are 3 full color variants available. We got black, white, and pink, with their matching braided cables. Obviously, I got the black keyboard here in the studio, so they sent over the black braided cable, but if you pick up the white or the pink, then you get a white braided cable instead. The switches also differ depending on the model. The black one here comes with Epomaker's transparent switches, while the white and pink models ship with creamy jades. Both switch types, however, are pre-lubed, hot swappable, and linear, with the only difference being the actuation force required to press them. The transparents need about 3/4 the force of the creamy jades, but both feel quite light to the touch. The case is built entirely out of plastic, just like the TH85, which also gives it a relatively light feel. Now the G84 is about 100 grams lighter than a TH85, which doesn't sound like much on paper, but it's quite noticeable when you're holding both of them at the same time. Now if you're traveling and you are looking for like an 80% keyboard, I feel like this would be a much better option. It naturally won't be as rigid as an aluminum chassis, but I mean, it's a keyboard. You're not gonna use it as a hammer after all. Considering the very competitive pricing of under $80, it's a good candidate nonetheless. It's also a great fit for setups with strict color schemes. The colors are consistent across the whole board and the keycaps, so you won't need to buy another set just to replace a couple of keys, as is the case with the TH85. Now I do have to say that the matte black finish on here might seem like a fingerprint magnet at first, but I haven't really noticed any obvious smudges. Either way, a quick wipe down of a microfiber cloth will take care of it nonetheless. Now, if I compare it directly to the TH85, the G84 shares the exact same key layout, complete with navigation and arrow keys, a full function row up top, and the lit Epomaker logo on the right. For those of you watching from the UK though, the keyboard only comes in the ANSI layout and not ISO, so that's something to keep in mind if you're considering buying it overseas. Even though the two boards are mostly similar, there are quite a few physical differences. The G84 has sharper, more squared off corners and a slanted front lip, whereas the TH85 has rounded edges and a straight vertical drop in the front. That means if you're using a wrist rest, the G84 might leave a small gap between the keys and the wrist rest itself. That's not that big of a deal for comfort, however it might affect aesthetics. Connectivity is exactly the same compared to the TH85. You of course get the wired USB-C, Bluetooth 5.0 and 2.4 GHz wireless, as well as Windows and Mac compatibility. I actually prefer how these sliders stick out a bit more than on the TH85. Sliding them and switching modes feels faster and more precise, at least in my experience. Also, quick note for Mac users, once again, Epomaker doesn't include any command and option keycaps, so you'll have to stick with the default legends or swap them yourself. Now, connecting the board wirelessly is pretty straightforward and requires only one pairing step. Switch the keyboard to the corresponding OS in the back. For Bluetooth, flip to the Bluetooth mode and watch for the Q key to flash. Hold the function key plus the Q key for around 3 to 5 seconds until it blinks rapidly. This will indicate that the keyboard is now discoverable. Then you can connect to it through the Bluetooth menu on your device. Now, if you want to pair a second or third device, just repeat the process with the W and E keys. 2.4 GHz connection works the exact same way. Flip the switch to 2.4G, hold the function and R key until it blinks faster, and then plug in a dongle to pair. Between wired, Bluetooth, and 2.4 GHz modes, you can connect up to 5 devices without having to change the setup again. Pretty cool. Speaking of the dongle, I'm starting to see a pattern across all the Epomaker boards out there. They are keeping the receiver underneath the left kickstand, which is very convenient, especially if you're traveling. The kickstand themselves click into 2 different heights, giving you 3 angle options for optimal wrist comfort. In typical Epomaker fashion, there is no shortage of RGB, and it's actually a lot brighter than on the TH85. With the default keycaps transparent legends, you can easily type away in the dark. One thing I realized while doing the review of this keyboard is that the G84 uses south-facing LEDs, while the keycap legends themselves are top printed. Now, I did mention this to Epomaker, and I got some insider info that I can share with you guys. So they originally wanted to use the creamy jade switches on all the color variants of the keyboard, not just on the white and pink. But after testing, they realized that they don't let enough light through on the black version. So they switched to the transparent switches, pun intended. That means even though the LEDs are south-facing, the extra transparency helps punch through the top printed legends better, albeit not as much as with the side printed legends. Now, if you compare it to the sky blue keycaps on the TH85 here, which also has south-facing RGB by the way, they do pop more, at least in my opinion. As for the rest, there's of course the lit up Epomaker logo I mentioned earlier on the right, but instead of a light strip that wraps around the rear, the G84 features 2 bottom-facing lights instead. This is a more subtle approach to ambient lighting compared to the light strip, which I honestly prefer. Now, the keybinds controlling the LEDs remain the same. Just press and hold the function key with the following combinations. Home to toggle the backlight on and off, backspace to cycle through the different effects, backslash to adjust the hue, which only works with single color light effects, arrow keys to change the brightness and affect speed, delete for the side lights, end for the logo light, and page up and page down for the color saturation. And if you want to check the battery life in either wireless mode, just simply hold on the function key and press the enter button. And this will light up the rows from 1 to 0, indicating how much battery is left over on the keyboard. And while we're on the topic of battery life, it's the same 4000 mAh battery yet again, so I got similar runtime compared to the TH85. About a week with RGB off and roughly 2 days with RGB on. If we remove the keycaps, you'll actually see the pre-lubed transparent switches mounted on a flex-cut polycarbonate plate. The stabilizers are also plate-mounted and pre-lubed, as you can see here. Of course, it's all subjective on how a switch feels when pressed, but when it comes to acoustics, I do think the G84 is much louder and also thockier compared to the other two. That said, it's extremely easy to type on thanks to the low actuation force of the transparent switches. I will admit though, I did see a few accidental key presses and typos because they're so sensitive, hence why I personally lean towards heavier switches, but that's just my personal preference. As a final note, for anyone who wants to fully customize the layout just like before, I never use the print and pause keys, so I simply remap them to volume down and volume up in VIA. It's super straightforward because the G84 is fully QMK and VIA programmable. All you have to do is download the corresponding JSON file from the Epomaker website, import it to VIA, and then you can assign any key to whatever function you like. All in all, the G84 does feel like a little stepsister to the TH85 with a few little cosmetic changes and a lower price tag. If you don't need a fancy light strip on the back and you prefer a monotone color scheme without any accent keycaps, the G84 is a no-brainer, especially if you consider the price. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the review of the G84. I'll drop a link to it down below. Let me know also in the comment section which of these boards do you prefer for your own setup. And also, if there's a specific keyboard you guys want me to review next, let me know in the comment section as well. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you very soon in the next one.